James Bond. I am a man that has dark hair, tan skin, and mysterious eyes. I love smoking, drinking, and being with different women. My body type is muscular, and I am in great physical condition because I always chase the enemy. I am the protagonist, and you only live twice. James Bond develops himself throughout the book gradually. At the beginning, he was driven deeply by his id. He drinks because of Tracy, cries, almost quits, and tries to hand in resignation papers, just because of the mourning of his beloved wife Tracy. But then, throughout the book, he begins to balance his ego because he was willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good by entering the Garden of Death to fight Blofeld. But James Bond is really impulsive with his actions, like how he acts through his hot-headedness and nothing more. You can see how when he insulted Tiger's Japanese culture and making his own British culture seem superior, that it displays his impulsivity and his unfiltered attitude towards things. His personality is mostly driven by his id, so he always needs a superego to balance him out whenever things happen. For example, M or Tiger was his superego and you only live twice. James Bond is also determined to kill Blofeld and is deceptive because he didn't reveal Shatterhand's identity to Tiger when he figured it out. I am the typical British soldier displayed in You Only Live Twice. All the other cultures were othered, and it kind of sends a message that Britain will always reign over other countries. Britain is the colonizer, and everyone else that's others is decolonized. For gender, I am representation of men that all men should look up to. Buff, strong, seductive, rich, can get every girl he wants. Mean at the same time, cocky, masculine, but also a gentleman while doing all of these things. In the book, I was the winner in the end because I won the Garden of Death and I also ended up getting the woman. But in relationship to gender, the woman ended up being the seductive femme fatale character to me. For the moral compass of the story, it was my journey in Japan. There was a mission with lots of obstacles and my weaknesses as being women and alcohol. A repetitive theme that was seen displayed inside this book was the fact that the men were always seeming to be characterized as being more masculine, bigger, taller, and more muscular than what the women were. Even though the top-ranking women were officials and had higher ranks than James Bond, they were always smaller and dainty compared to Bond. This you can see represented physically and not. Physically, men were stronger and were there to protect the woman, and also it was seen that bigger things are more important. By having Bond and the other men seem bigger than the woman, it gives them a sense of power and a quiet, typical shy look to the women. I am Tracy. I was Bond's love interest that became his wife that gets killed on our wedding day. I am a very beautiful woman that is represented as Bond's other half to his rugged and impulsive personality. I symbolize the balance, but when I get killed, his life loses grip and he falls down a hole on his id. As a representative of their love in this story, Tracy was the only Bond girl to ever marry him, so that was a display of his absolute love for her and willingness to give up his entire life just to be with her. Soon after our planned happily ever after, I get killed, which proves to Bond that no matter how hard he tries to be happy and have his perfect life, fate just won't allow him to do it. I represent the death in Bond throughout You Only Live Twice. The premise of the book was so that Bond would defeat the Garden of Death, and the irony is that the reason he was on this mission in the first place was because of my death. He couldn't get over the grief of my death, and it overtook his entire life. This mission was for him to defeat the death in his life obstacle, but now his mission is once again showing that nobody can defeat death, especially not James Bond. I am N. In You Only Live Twice, I am a man. I am not described in detail because I am meant to be the mysterious character behind Bond that guides him throughout his quests. As seen by my simple name, M, I wish to remain anonymous in my works and don't like mixing life and business. I am seen as the sidekick to the protagonist, James Bond. M is representative of being the superego behind Bond's id. At the beginning, when Bond is mourning the death of his wife Tracy, he decides to hand in his letters of resignation and fall into his hole of drinking and alcohol once again. But M is sneaky, and he talks about Bond behind his back and schemes a deceptive plan with a psychologist to get him back in the game. M is also a very calm and composed character. When they receive news of Bond's death, M still remained calm and composed in his letter and didn't seem to let his emotions get the best of him. M is also a very smart character. He was able to become the leader of a giant organization in the British government, so he must be smart and be able to use his wit as one of his many different traits. I represent the superiority of Great Britain to be able to trick the Japanese into allowing a British soldier to infiltrate their people on their own land. As for the moral compass of the story, I am the superego that is used to balance out James Bond's id. We can see how his character is deeply driven by his id and his own selfish desires, so I am used to balance out his character and keep his actions in check. My name is Deco. I am a static, one-dimensional character that doesn't get much development. I am here to aid Bond in his quest. I act as a guide and a one-stop man for James Bond's mission to get his superego back in check. Deco is a man that is good, kind of a go-lucky, nice guy that sees none and does none. He is representative more as a side character that aids Bond in his journey. Deco is a smiling man that is full of joy and in an innocent way. He enjoys his luxuries, women, wine, food, and his time in Japan. First, I am the more white-looking man in a foreign country filled with Japanese people. I have a very high rank position, and even though I may not work as hard as other people in Japan, I still get paid more than most and can enjoy many luxuries a Japanese worker could never. I am also being served by women, showing the fact that once again, men are better than women both socially and in relationship to class. Once again, I am the white male that is superior over all the Japanese people in a Japanese country. My name is Tiger. I am a man that is very clean-cut, rich, and mannered. I may not look like much physically, but I have my own secret ninja spy school where we train ninjas and go on secret government-issued missions. I am a very high-ranking official, and whoever I say gets killed, gets killed. I aid Bond on his journey within Japan and help him along the way. Tiger is a very calm and collected man that doesn't display his emotions easily. He is a trainer of a secret spy school in Japan and has trained many people to kill in different and secretive ways. Tiger also displays his polite and proud personality throughout the story. In You Only Live Twice, when Tiger turns James Japanese and introduces him to many Japanese traditions, he does it with pride and happiness. He respects Bond's American ways, but loves showing Bond the Japanese way to do things. I represent the Japanese Secret Service men. I am very secretive and have ties and connections everywhere. For the culture, it shows how I owe up to mine and am proud of it. When we share things, you can always tell how I respect Bond in his British ways, but inside, I feel as though the Japanese ways are better. I introduce to Bond traditions of the Japanese and our whole respect and the importance of on, which is the Japanese way of how to repay an act another person has shown onto you. I am the masseuse seen at the beginning of You Only Live Twice serving Tiger and James Bond. I am a static character that is used to represent the sex and cultures. I am a beautiful woman with a slim body type, perfect hair color, and makeup. The masseuse is displayed as obedient and quiet. She only speaks when spoken to, and her actions reflect what the men ask her to do. Her absence of voice symbolizes her objectification. Instead of having a personality, she is shown as an object used for making sure the men are as comfortable as possible, instead of being part of a conversation among the others. I am a character created to display how the sexes of women are objectified in the Japanese culture and its similarities to the British culture as well. I am a woman trained not to speak and talk back, but to do my job and serve the man however he would like. This represents how most typical women are low class and how they were treated as not as high rank as the men and are typically only needed to care for them. This gender stereotype also perpetuates how women are only needed to take care of the men. While the two males were in the tub making decisions that may enact a war between countries, the women were silent and scrubbing their backs. In the moral compass of the story, beyond the scene, most other women were displayed as sexualized or evil. Women were seen as just femme fatales or just there to serve a man. I am the anonymous ninja thief that appears within You Only Live Twice. I am a static character that appears in the book for plot development. I'm a stocky-sized man that follows Bond and Tiger around Japan and wore a mask and a black leather hat. The ninja is a worker for Blofeld, sent to get intel on Bond's purpose for his presence here in Japan. He was sneaky because he was able to follow Bond and Tiger around Tokyo the entire time before getting caught. He also displays his loyalty by dying during his cause for working for Blofeld. In this story, I am another obstacle in Bond's journey. I show Blofeld's personality of being cunning and prepared for potential enemies. To culture, I represent the loyalty of Japanese people and their willingness to die for the cause. The moral of this scene was that it led Bond and Tiger's realization of seeing what measures Blofeld would use to protect himself and the men he would sacrifice in the process, taking advantage of the Japanese culture of honorable suicide. I am Kissy. I am a beautiful woman. I'm the best diver in all of the Alma Island and like to dress scantily because it helps with my diving. I am the femme fatale in this story because I try to seduce James Bond by deceiving his memory. I am related to the siren in Greek mythology because of my relation to water and deception. My pet bird, David, is my representation of the bird head of the sirens. Kissy is portrayed at the beginning of You Only Live Twice as a beautiful woman that's actions reflect her innocence and kindness. She declined her possible fame in Hollywood to come home to her honest family and life. Her home is made of humble wood in a tight-knit community reflecting her caring and innocent portrayal. She volunteers to care for Bond and devotes much of her time to him. She aids him in his quest and provides him with knowledge as well. But later on in the book, she turns into a deceiving and cunning liar. When Bond loses his memory, Kissy refuses to let him remember. Through her actions, we can see she becomes a femme fatale, a seductive woman that brings disaster and discourse to a man after they become involved. I represent the fact that all women are seductive and deceiving. At the beginning, I may seem innocent, but in the end, I turn into a liar that deceives Bond and his memory. My culture makes me seem innocent, with the humble houses and the straw roofs. The whole island is unconnected to the outside world, and it makes me seem honest, sweet, and not bad in any way because I haven't been exposed to the horrors of the social construct. My purpose in this story makes me seem as if I'm the second antagonist. My presence made Bond forget all of his superego and make him wish to just lift off of his id, which is why I am the femme fatale in James Bond's life. I am Ernest Stavro Blofeld. I'm the antagonist in You Only Live Twice, and I kill Bond's beloved wife Tracy and cause Bond's downfall for his id. Due to his wife's death, Bond has grown a thirst for revenge on me. I've grown a drooping back mustache and replaced my front two teeth with gold to conceal my identity. In Japan, I go by Dr. Shatterhand, so I'm not suspicious to my enemies. I also had my syphilitic nose repaired. I am a static character because I don't learn from my previous mistakes and don't give up on my hubris. I have a godly complex because other people look up to me and do whatever I say. Blofeld is a cunning, smart, and sneaky character. He was able to disguise himself and create himself an alternate identity that could bring in a garden of deadly plants into Tokyo without suspicion. He has lots of pride and hubris in his personality, which is displayed when he wouldn't give up to Bond no matter what. He kept fighting to win and never caved in. His power is fueled by the fear other people have of him and the uncertain death that he will bring if they disobey his orders. In the story, my face scar others me and displays my physical deformity, whereas my internal behavior displays my psychopathic tendencies. In my arsenal of workers in my garden, I'm the only white man and I rule over all of them. They are all Japanese men and they are lower class than me, so they respond to all my orders. I took advantage of the Japanese culture and moved my deadly garden here to provide myself a quiet place to scheme my plans. I play an important role in the moral compass of the story because I killed Bond's wife on their wedding day. Because of my action, Bond began to give up on his duties and even nearly handed in his resignation. But his handler sends him on a mission in Japan where his fate may triumph once again. This symbolizes that Bond must defeat me if he wants to move past this section of his life. I represent the fact that you can try and run, but death will always be one step ahead of you, and you will never be able to outrun it no matter how hard you try. My name is Irma Bunt, and I am Blofeld's wife that other people describe as very ugly. I am a static character because there are not many descriptions of my appearance or my personality. I remain just as the villain's wife with similar evil mindsets. I am power hungry and work with my husband and his genius plans. Irma Bunt is a smart and observant woman. Although people underestimate her abilities, she was the one to remember and recognize James Bond under his Japanese identity. She could piece together information that no one else could. I am seen in the story as the antagonist's wife, so I am not as powerful and authoritative as him. People don't see me as threatening because of my sex. I am a woman, and that is represented in the culture as evil, but not as evil as my husband, who is a man. For the moral compass of the story, you can see me as one of the other obstacles in Bond's way to get to Blofeld. I get killed first before he can get to his prize, my husband, so I was just yet another obstacle in his way before he could get to him.